Here's my game of the day from round 9. Hopefully, I don't think we're going to be interrupted actually this time by our chief arbiter. I wanted to look at one of the strongest players in the tournament, in the whole Olympiad. This is from the Italy-Greece match, and Fabiano Caruana, currently rated number 2 in the world, is playing for Italy. And he played Christos Banikas from Greece. Now, Banikas is a good player. He's rated 26-44. But I think this shows the kind of gulf in class between the really elite players, the top 10 in the world, and others, a regular 26-50 Grandmaster. We join the game after 18 moves. Caruana has the white pieces. He already has a very, very pleasant position. He has a space advantage. Black has advanced the pawn to e5, creating a huge hole on d5. And it's not just that there's a huge hole on d5. It's just structurally, Black doesn't have a really good pawn break. This is the problem. That, if you could perhaps get in b5 to break down White's structure, that would be something. If you could land a knight on d4, that would be something. Obviously there's no knight. But it's very difficult to get in a move like b5, because White is going to close down like this. And f5, rather weakens. I mean, there are tactical problems with that straight away, but it can be very weakening. This is the problem. Okay, how does White make something of the position? I thought Caruana's play was highly instructive. Let's see. First, he doubled on the d file. Well, that's a good start. This is a weakness, and let's tie Black to that and then think again. So you do this in little steps, basically. You don't have a particularly a grand strategy. You keep your options open, you keep active, you tie your opponent to weaknesses. Black plays h5. Well, I think that's an understandable move, because this is at the moment not the best piece in the world, and you want to play king h7 and improve that piece. Also, if you could play h4, that might be quite nice for Black. If the pawn advances, then, if the bishop managed to get into these dark squares, that would certainly be an achievement. So, of course, Caruana blocks with h4, and that also gives him an idea too. Black played king h7 as advertised, and king h2. Here we go. Both sides are improving their bad bishops, you could say. Bishop h6, and the queen came back. You'll notice that f5 just isn't possible at the moment because of the tactics, but White always has to be aware of this move f5 and make sure that either tactically or for some other reason it's not working. So it's all about constriction, this position. Black plays rook ac8. Now you have to be a little bit more aware of this move. Bishop h3. An exchange of bishops would be desirable for White, because then these squares look much weaker. It's even greater control. The knight can land on d5 without fear of being exchanged off. Of course, White would benefit from that trade. And we need to calculate f5. There's no threat to take an exchange here, and after taking, you'll see that the h-pawn is en prise. And, excellent position for White. So f5 still is impossible. Rook c6. Okay, a bit of extra protection for here, but you can see that basically Black is completely passive in this position, and that's how we want things to stay. And now Caruana just does a little bit of shuffling. King g2. In these kind of positions, if you have control, there is no sense in rushing it. Just squeeze the position. And very often you find that actually it's your opponent that makes concessions when they're very passive, because they don't know how to defend. They don't know exactly what's coming next. So this is a very important strategy in these kind of positions. Don't rush. Take care. Black might be able to gain some counterplay with this move. Caruana plays rook f3. Okay, he's just probing. This, to some extent, ties black down. You know, maybe he has some idea to perhaps come in here, or who knows. He's just probing. Black plays king g7. Okay, no harm done. And Caruana makes sure that b5 is not going to happen. He clamps it with these pawns, so completely solid on the queen side. That's important. As I said at the start, this would be a very different situation if black had a knight come in into these squares. But actually, just with bishops, black's position is not very dynamic. Queen b7. Black can only wait here. Okay, the rook comes back. There's nothing gained by this little excursion to f3, but no harm done either. Black is waiting. Queen c8. Now, here's an interesting move. Rook h1. You'll see with the queen c8, the bishop on h3 is threatened. Caruana could trade on e6. I think it's just another way to play the position. Queen e6 would not be desirable because white can then use this square, but pawn takes, this would be the problem, and the pawn on d5 covers the e6 square. But this would still be playable for white. You know, it might even be possible at some point to go for g4. It's just another way of playing the position. Of course, the problem with that is that the bishop finds a square here. But I think the way Caruana plays it, keeping his options open with rook h1, is by far the best. So he's defending the bishop, and well, he's keeping this option of g4 open as well. King h7, black can only wait. Now he leaps in with knight d5. It looks good. Obviously it can't be taken because the queen can be taken. And suddenly there's a threat here, queen b7. Ah, now the queen has moved away from the king side, and Caruana seizes his opportunity to break with g4, and this signals the end of the game, really. You can see that black's pieces are just way across on the queen side, but white is massing with all his pieces for an attack on black's poor king. And basically there's no defence now. h5 is coming. Black exchanges off this dangerous knight, but h5 is crushing, so white wants to open the h-file and come in. Black tries to keep the king side closed, but actually it's terribly easy now. White comes in on the light squares, and there's no defence, so let's just see the end of the game. It's incredibly simple, actually. Bishop e6. Black resigned. Let's see what happens if it's taken. Pawn takes, queen g6, followed by queen takes bishop. And otherwise there's no defence. If the pawn moves, then queen g6. And if we defend the f-pawn with rook f8, bishop takes, and queen g6 follows. Very, very simple. But, well, this is the thing. These strong players, they make it look simple, but actually, you know, Caruana's technique was just superb.